Hi, my name is Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. I'm a reporter and anchor in India. I've been in the mad world of television journalism for over 10 years now. And I'm here in front of you today to tell you what goes into the making of a journalist here in the country, and mostly what happens behind the scenes. Now, to understand that, let's take you back in time. Let's take you to the December of 2012. It was that time in the country when the streets of the national capital were flooded with people, angry people, men and women, young and old, seething with anger with the brutal gang rape of a young girl in the national capital. There were protests breaking out everywhere, outside Rashtrapati Bhavan, outside India Gate. I was, at that time, as a city reporter, reporting from Safdarjung Hospital, reporting on her medical updates and talking to her family. I remember the doctors telling me that they were shocked at how she was still alive because not an inch of intestine was left inside of her. I remember talking to her brother, who later on became a good friend of mine, and at that time, just throwing words in the middle of his sobs, just venting out to me, saying, "How did this happen?" Didi had just gone to watch a movie with a friend. How did this happen? How did she land up here? Now, the reporter in me wanted all the whereabouts, all the details. Where did she go? What movie did she watch? Whom did she go with? And the details, they stunned me. She had gone to watch Life of Pi at a multiplex in South Delhi with a male friend of hers. Why that was shocking is because I was watching Life of Pi at the same theatre, the same night, the same show with a male friend of mine. The only difference, perhaps, was that my male friend happened to have a car he could drop me back home in, else I would have taken a public transport as well. In that minute, I realized how close I was to becoming the story I was reporting upon. She was my age. She was just like me, perhaps, not wanting to conform to the ways of the society or limit herself to a home, just wanting to live. In the weeks that followed the gang rape and the unfortunate incident, I covered various aspects of the story. I remember being at India Gate when I can still hear, as if it's happening right in front of me right now, on how people were screaming when Lathi charge was taking place. I remember recording a piece with my camera person when a tear gas shelling fell right in between us. There was commotion, there were screams, people were falling on top of each other. I lost contact with my camera person. Somebody stole my phone. I was vomiting. I had fiery eyes. Typical reactions, by the way, of a tear gas shelling. My shoe was broken. And in that moment, I don't remember for how long I walked to just get some help. And to give you an idea, it was not just that one day. This was happening every day in Delhi. One day it was tear gas shelling, the other day it was water cannons. Cold water cannons being fired at protesters, at media as well. In the Delhi ki sardi, you know how cold it gets in Delhi in December. But most of all, from that December, I remember being at Singapore at the Mount Elizabeth Hospital, just her family and I at that point, when the doctors walked in and said that she didn't have much long to live. I had the opportunity to meet her, to see her 15 minutes before she died. And that's an image that has stayed with me till this day. That is an image when I saw her, where everything around me just stood still for a minute. And I had no thought, nothing in my mind. It was just her and I. In many ways, I think it was my epiphany. It was that moment where time stood still and I met my purpose. Unfortunately for me, it was when another girl was losing her life. But when these moments of epiphany happens, it's not like your life changes completely. Or let me put it this way, when I came back, I was the same person. I was still reporting, my work was still quite hard. As a city reporter, you're on call 24/7. The mental and the physical toil of things really gets to you. You hardly paid anything. It was all the same, life was the same, but something had changed, something had altered inside me. I had a new perspective, perhaps a new calling, perhaps a new way of looking at things. Fun fact, that night before everything started, the night where I was watching Life of Pi unknowingly with Nirbhaya in the same theatre, I had told myself, I'm going to quit. That I'm going to go and put in my papers and go back home. Take that walk of shame, go back to my parents, to a small city in UP and tell them I couldn't make it. Couldn't make it as a reporter. The city life is just too hard. Guess what happened right after? Guess where we are right now. That one dreaded call that I got the next morning, 5:30 a.m. from the newsroom assignment desk. For those of you who don't understand, they're like these newsroom warriors who keep a hawk's eye on every alert and every development that takes place. They gave me a call at 5:30 in the morning, and the only detail I had at that point was that there had been a rape that had taken place in South Delhi that they needed a reporter to go on. That rape is now the story of a lot of people's life, story of a lot of transformed lives as well. And over the years, I've had lots of these calls actually from the same newsroom assignment desk. I remember one call where I was asked to rush to a village in Haryana where the Khaps had decided that women would no longer be allowed to wear jeans. This mostly included young girls as well. I got a call, I had to rush. I did that immediately. Somewhere halfway in my travel, trying to coordinate details, I realized that I was going to go to a village which had banned jeans for women, talk to them about it, spend a day with them, wearing exactly that. Frankly, in 11 years of journalism, I've had several such encounters. As a woman journalist, I've had several stories where I've reported on women not being allowed to wear what they want, say what they feel, love who they love. At times, women who've not even had a chance at life. Which brings me to a story in Rajasthan. I went to one of the remotest villages in Rajasthan, a village which had the worst female feticide ratio in the country. When I reached there, my instinct was to talk to other women, right? They would understand what's going on, they'll have an insight. Maybe I can highlight their voice. To my horror, I sat there in the middle of the village on a charpai with women young and old, and they had no inhibitions in telling me that according to them, women were a burden, a girl child was a burden. One of them turned around and said, "Kooda hoti hai," meaning they're just garbage. A lot of them even then went to great details to even explicitly tell me how they handled the girl child problem in the village. I'm not going to give you the details, just spare you on that one, but they basically, if a girl child was born, they had their own ways of getting rid of it. They would simply go to the mother and say the child was stillborn. The mother knew the reality, the villagers knew the reality, and the mother also knew that she would have to continue to do this till the time she bore a boy. At moments like these, I've reflected upon my own life. I am, after all, an only child, only girl child of a small conservative family back in UP. But at least I had a chance to live. At least I had free will to make my own decisions. Something which a lot of women even till date do not have. Something which I especially know two teenage girls born about 250 kilometers from my birthplace in UP, a place called Badaun, certainly did not have. This is the story of two girls who were allegedly raped, murdered, then hung to a tree in full public spectacle in the village. And this case had followed a lot of anger on the ground. When I reached there, there were riot police all over the place. The family was very angry. The entire highway was blocked. They were sitting with the bodies over there saying, we're not going to cremate till the time justice is met. There was a lot of international press on this because they had gone to relieve themselves because there were no toilets in that village, and that's when the incident had taken place. Well, it was so complicated, and when I got there, there were so many views and counter views that to get to the heart of the issue, I decided to go back to reporting rules 101. You first speak to the family of the bereaved. Identified them, I went there. I saw their humble home. I saw the father. But I couldn't take my first step. I remember just standing there thinking, how do you ask a daughter, or how do you ask a father, in fact, how their two daughters died in such a public way? How do you enter a house in mourning with a camera and mic in your hand? How do you even start a conversation like that? And I remember being stuck there, not being able to take that one step. But over the years, I've taken such hard steps a lot of times, but mostly been thankful about the fact that I get to tell their story. All these stories have changed me. Living the lives I'm in fact reporting upon has transformed me. For several assignments, we've had no proper food or lodging to depend upon. In the case of Badaun, no toilets for 15 days. But at least we were able to bring out the story, take the tough decision, knowing that it was for the larger good. I think upon these stories all these years down the line, and I think that I thought my life was tough. I thought I wanted to throw all this away and go back home, thinking it was too much to take. And to be frank with you, over the years, I've had several such opportunities. I've had several such moments. I've met some fantastic people as well. I've met a lot of people, from prime ministers to chief ministers, to homeless people, to drug addicts, to criminals. I've had lunch with the most powerful woman in the country, and the same day skip dinner to hear the story of a girl who was thrown into trafficking at the age of 13. I still remember how she showed me her scars, the scratch in her voice when she told me how she was used and abused, sold and resold, forced into marriage with a guy much older to her. She bared the children, never got control of them, and there she was, still telling me her story. Stuff like that changes you. I was also a young girl. She was the girl sitting in front of me, having gone through abuse, was just about my age. But anyways, so is life. These things happen, especially when you are a reporter. And frankly, looking back at it, I know you all have churnings in your stomach right now, but I at least had the freedom to talk, the freedom to tell that story, the freedom to reflect upon it, a voice. And if you're watching this, trust me, so do you. What are you doing with that voice? In these moments of epiphany, or in these moments when I have been broken as well, and I'll not lie to you, I've had my moments. I've had my moments when I've been numb. I've had my moments when I've had silent cries. 2 panic attacks, all hidden behind the makeup and the smiles when I sit on primetime television and I greet the nation. But I still get sleep at night. I still get sleep thinking that that spot at primetime television has its impact. Thinking that we've managed to change, if not all, some lives, at least start a conversation. With the reporting that we did, we changed the life of that girl. That girl who was thrown into trafficking today has a respectable job. She has hired lawyers to bring back the custody and to win back the custody of her 2 kids. Governments have been forced to build toilets in villages which have never had one for generations. NGOs are now working in the most remotest corners of the countries, building up and bettering the sex ratio in the country. And most of all, we have a new sexual harassment law in the country, one of the best in the world. And I've not been a silent spectator, I've been an agent of change, sometimes a loud one. So my message to you is this: when that moment of epiphany hits you, live it, embrace it, enjoy it, because your life is about to change, and with you, the life of so many others. Thank you.